for coming to discuss this interesting topic on capacity building. As we know, achieving a net zero future requires not only the development and deployment of innovative technologies, but also the cultivation of the skills and the capabilities necessary to implement and progress these solutions effectively. And we already see that there is a capacity building gap building up, and we need to address that, both north-south gaps, and this is what we're going to talk about here today. We will start with a presentation of two very interesting reports by Shatki Ramkumar, who is the Senior Director of Policy and Communications of Student Energy, and Chris Knibb from the IET. So please, the floor is yours.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. If we could jump to the next slide. Oh, we can do it. Okay, great, awesome. Thanks, Chris. Awesome. So today we thought we'd take a creative approach and do a little back and forth presentation, sharing highlights from both of our organizations' reports. So both Student Energy and the IET have independently produced reports that are looking at skills for the future of the energy transition. Student Energy's report is called the Energy Transition Skills Project, and it's a survey of over 2,000 young people from around the world, looking at, from a young person's perspective, what are they looking for when it comes to their careers, what are the barriers they're facing, and how are they navigating this complex world of the energy transition. And we published that report earlier in 2023. And similarly, the IET has also produced an independent report looking at it from the employer's perspective. I swear we didn't plan this, it just happened. So they've been looking at it from, I think, also 2,000.
Yes, spookily 2,000 employers of engineers.
Yeah. So today we'll be sharing some of the key findings and insights from both reports.
Okay. So as we've said, the IET conducted a survey earlier this year, 2,000 engineering employers across 10 countries. It built on other skill surveys that we've done in the past. We've been doing skill surveys at the IET for about 25 years. And in the past 2 years, we've done one in Oman and another at the UAE. So this really built on that work. And when you look at sustainability, it's not surprising really that the lack of skills is the most common barrier identified by employers to their organisation becoming net zero. And when we talk about what skills are required, they're saying very specialist skills are required. So they've included that as not just to people coming into the organisation and graduates and people joining the organisation, but also their leadership. You know, they create sustainability strategies, but their leaders don't necessarily have the skills that they require. The greatest need, some of them say, are for the softer skills, such as solving complex problems and whole system thinking. And this is backed by research that was conducted by the Electricity Human Resources Canada, which picked up similar things, you know, that soft skills, listening, problem solving, collaboration, and management were also important skills that they needed if they were to tackle climate change.
And on our report, the Energy Transition Skills Project, we asked young people that we surveyed who came from all over the world. I would say about 75% of the youth we surveyed were in urban settings, the other in rural and remote settings, and asked them, what are your main barriers to finding employment, to navigating employment in the energy sector? And the main things that young people came up with were a lack of opportunities, a lack of awareness about existing opportunities, or just a lack of entry-level positions that match the skills that they already have coming out of post-secondary. Nearly 40% of the youth we surveyed said they are extremely interested in working in a job that supports the energy transition, but they just don't know where to start. So the starting point and finding that first connection seems to be a major barrier for young people. Almost half of the youth we surveyed said they had no idea what kind of opportunities even exist in the sector because they're not made aware of these pathways in their post-secondary education or earlier education. So they had kind of no conception of the many diverse routes you can take in the clean energy space, which is, I think, concerning but addressable. And then over 60% of the young people we surveyed said they could really benefit from skills training programs that act as a bridge between post-secondary education, whatever that may look like, and their first careers in the energy space. And that was nearly 65% of young people who expressed a strong desire for skills training programs.
So we asked industry about its expectations on people coming into the market, and they said the hardest skills to get were those that could help them become resilient to climate change, and that they needed specialist environmental and digital knowledge. But we asked what should people coming into the sector have? What skills would be most useful? And they said a wide skill set is really important across, and this was across all markets that we interviewed. And when you look at particular countries, China, Brazil and Saudi Arabia, they wanted their entrants to have particular mindset. So in China, 92% wanted their entrants to have a whole systems approach thinking. In Saudi Arabia, 78% said they wanted innovative thinking, and in Brazil, 89% said they wanted an agile mindset. Employers were split on which skills new entrants are missing when we asked them what are the skills that are missing. With Germany and Egypt saying that they really wanted technical skills. But then when you look at the USA and the UK, they're very much arguing that they want leadership and management skills rather than those technical skills that are missing.
And then on the youth side, we asked young people, okay, if you could have your perfect career, what are you looking for when it comes to your employer or your career? And young people, I think, which is probably common knowledge now, it's been found in a few other surveys too, highly value the purpose of their work. So they're looking not only for a good job, but values alignment between the values that they hold and what their employer is doing, specifically when it comes to the climate crisis. And other major surveys of young people, like the Deloitte's Millennial Gen Z survey that they do every year, have found the same, that young people are highly prioritizing the purpose of work and employers' value alignment when they search for careers. However, young people are also looking to get paid well and make good livings. So young people that we surveyed also highlighted salary and compensation as important considerations when they're looking for a career, particularly in the global south of those that we surveyed. And they're also looking for opportunities for growth. I think especially in the clean energy space, a lot of the young people we talk to say the pathway for a long career in the clean energy space seems opaque, maybe because the industry is a little bit newer, maybe because there aren't as many role models who have spoken openly about what the pathway could look like for them. So young people are looking to not just enter the space, but stay in the space and be in it for the long haul and know that they can earn a good living and that they can progress in their careers year on year. So unsurprisingly, those were the top 3 expectations that young people are looking for.
So back to the IEEE survey, and what you'll find when we come on to recommendations is it feels like that we were actually speaking to each other when we were doing these reports, because the recommendations are very similar from industry and from the young people. But we asked industry about education and whether they felt that the education systems in their countries were really providing the skills that the engineers needed when they started in the workplace. And without exception, well, with one exception, sorry, industry placement years, summer placement schemes and industry targeted projects were all highlighted as one potential improvement that they could make in their country. The outlier there was Egypt, that didn't highlight any of those 3. Education, particularly in the UK, ranks really poorly according to industry. 35% of the people we spoke to in the UK said that that education prepares their graduates for the workplace. And that's in steep contrast to China, which is 95% say that the education system provides them with the skills that they need to build that. One of the things that industry was saying, that there was the much needed greater collaboration between education and industry, particularly as the skills that industry needs today changes, and the education programs need to keep up with that. For what's needed in 2, 5 and 10 years' time.
And for young people, we have a long history at Student Energy, over 12 years of working with young people. And we've learned that young people on the whole don't feel that their post-secondary education adequately prepares them for careers in the clean energy workforce, since the industry changes so much faster, unfortunately, than post-secondary institutions can often keep up with. Young people about half of young people that we surveyed responded that their post-secondary education, to them, it did not feel like it prepared them to be a part of the energy transition workforce of the future. Like Chris mentioned, there was actually a similar kind of analogous regional discrepancy for us too. About 60% of students in North America said post-secondary did not adequately prepare them for a career in the sector, whereas respondents in other areas of the world, like the Indian subcontinent, actually did feel like their post-secondary education prepared them for the sector. So I think it's notable, those regional differences, and young people perhaps are feeling like they're getting more applied skills training in other parts of the world compared to North America. And then one other thing that I wanted to highlight here related to education is a lot of the young people we surveyed who are, from all spectrums of formal education also noted that despite, a willingness to work in the sector and a recognition that many different types of jobs exist in the sector, did feel like there was a stigma or a pressure that they had to have formal STEM education, a 4-year degree, 4+ year degree, to be a part of the sector. And yet a lot of young people are very interested in trades and vocational training to work in the sector, and that's a clear need in the industry as well. So one thing we are looking at in phase 2 of our report is exploring what education could look like and what formal and informal pathways can contribute to kind of broadening the clean energy workforce.
So the recommendations from both reports, well, from the IET report, our recommendations are here around prioritising training and upskilling, focused on resilience skills, making sure that sustainability content is across all leadership programs so that leaders understand what they need to do when they're creating sustainability strategies, aligning jobs with young people's priorities, making sure that in energy transition we're able to explain the purpose of the work and how it relates to their goals and ambitions and what they're trying to do, making sure that the reward scheme is appropriate and also making sure that they've got opportunities to grow in those roles and in the sector. We need to build strategies to make sure that the sector is more diverse and we have diversity of thought and make sure that it's inclusive and we can bring more people into it from different backgrounds and different educational routes. But also there needs to be greater collaboration between the education systems and employers, making sure that they understand what the entry points are available to young people and what skills are required by the young people, and making that sure that's really clear and understanding what skills are expected when they go into the workforce.
And a lot of the same recommendations were found in our report as well. A few that I want to point out and reiterate are just that young people are really seeking values-aligned careers. That came up over and over again in our interviews. They are looking closely at their employers' climate commitments, their climate pledges, what they're saying and what they're doing, and the gap in between. And young people are paying attention. They're also very sensitive to legacy employers in the energy sector and how they're marketing to young people, how they're recruiting young people. And finally, they are looking for opportunities in the clean energy sector, but believe the industry needs to do more to reach out to young people who may not have the necessary connections or existing networks to get themselves into that space. Youth are interested, they're ready to work, but they want to feel like they can actually get their foot in the door.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shatki and Chris. Very interesting. No, don't go away just before you go. Just one question. I mean, I think it was interesting. I found it striking, some of the differences between the countries. And I wanted to ask the two of you, what is that something that surprised you in particular in these results? I mean, we know there are differences among countries, the structure of the working market and also the structure of the universities. And so what struck, your thoughts in terms of what you expected and what you found?
Shall I go first? I guess we conducted a UAE survey last year which showed that in this country there's been a real push in the past 10 years to get more women into engineering. And I guess an observation from me is a disappointment that as a community, the engineering sector doesn't seem to be able to learn best practice from other countries and take that approach. So in the UK, as an example, 16.5% of engineers are women, and that's terrible. And why aren't we looking across the globe to make sure that we're learning from other organisations and other countries about how do you make the sector really inclusive? If you're talking about a diversity issue, if you're talking about education, for example, 95% of people in industry thinks that the education system in China is working for them. In the UK, it's 35%. Why isn't the UK learning? So I think it's about sharing best practice across the globe, because in some ways, in some areas we do really well, and in other areas we're performing really poorly, depending on which country you're in and what you're looking at. So I think that's probably my take-home concern, is that we have the power to do that. We have the power to talk to each other, learn, listen, and really make changes so that we're not in competition with each other. I think that's the number one thing. Sustainability isn't going to be changed by one country working on its own and keeping all the secrets of its success on its own. So how can we share that? And it's probably my kind of question to everyone. How do we do that? How do we break down those barriers that shouldn't be there?
Thank you, Jeffery.
Yeah. I'd say one thing that surprised me about the report, I think the regional differences are really notable, especially when it comes to formal education and young people's experience of them. Young people in the Global South, who also make up the majority of Student Energy's own network, found that the formal education systems that they go through, they're quite demanding, but they do prepare them a little bit more for entry-level careers in the clean energy sector. But they also noted in interviews that the opportunities in the clean energy sector were often not in their own communities. So they're becoming highly educated, sometimes 3, 4, 5 degrees in, and they're finding that they still have to leave their countries or have to start their own ventures, which comes with its own, mountain of challenges, in order to enter some of the largest clean energy companies or employers in the market. So I think that was notable, whereas in the global north respondents that we saw, young people were feeling a lot more uncertainty and sort of unprepared by their formal post-secondary education, and expressed a need for more bridging and skill building programs, which is surprising.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much. This was really an interesting start here for our discussions today. Thank you both, and let's give them a clap. Well, with that positive tone that the young people have a sense of purpose and really want to transform their careers into something that really has an impact. Now let's move to our panel, and I will introduce myself and then the panel. I'm Smeid Silveira. I'm professor in Cornell University. I'm also a member of the SET, the Council of Engineers for the Energy Transition. Many of my colleagues from the SET are here, so I invite you to afterwards mingle and talk to our colleagues. And here at the table, I have with me Dr. Saifur Rahman from the IEEE. He's the president of IEEE. I have Dr. Gopichand Katragadda, who is the president of IET. I have Mohamedou Saidou Balde, who's the COP28 Youth Climate Delegate, and he's also a Student Energy Summit 2023 delegate. It is a summit that was organized prior to the COP28, and we will be then having now a 1-hour conversation here about these issues of capacity building for the energy transition and how we can close this gap. And to start this conversation, I'd like to invite Jeffery Sachs, who's the chair of the SDSN and also the chair of the Council of Engineers for the Energy Transition. Please, Jeff. Oh, sorry.
Thank you very much. I won't be long. We have a wonderful panel, and thanks to all of you for joining the discussion. The UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network was set up in 2012 to create a worldwide network of universities, think tanks, research laboratories, lead thinking organizations to promote the sustainable development solutions and the sustainable development goals. And we've now been operating for 11 years, and there are 2,000 member organizations around the world. Really a very deep and rich network, almost all universities, or mostly universities, let's say, operating in 150 countries. So I just want to say at the outset, if you have ideas of curriculum, ways for doing training, novel ways of certificate programs or short courses, or online degrees, which I believe in very much because they're low cost, they can teach a lot, we can reach a lot of students. SDSN is really at your disposal. So for IEEE or others, you have your networks. You are the networks in this area. But if a network of universities with a very established body of work on curriculum, and an SDG Academy can support the seat, can support a group of members that say, we want to teach short courses, we want to give a certificate in decarbonization in steel, we want to give a certificate in planning green grids, we want to do something like that. I'm all ears for whatever kind of support, networking, platforms. We have many platforms, but mostly edX as a platform, but many ways to help create a mainly virtual platform, as well as reaching into hundreds of universities very quickly. Interestingly, when we have convened leaders of universities in our network, we've had now 2 years where we've had rounds of calls of university presidents and chancellors in Asia, in Africa, in Latin America, in Europe, in the United States. And these calls have typically involved hundreds of university presidents who stay on the line for 3 hours to discuss how their universities can accelerate their teaching in sustainable development areas. So AI and the green economy, or 1,000 things. The universities are really interested in keeping up to date in, I'd say more than that, in renovating and revamping their curricula, in finding new ways to teach, in giving very low-cost online degrees, which is a new thing, really, because access is critical, and we want mass access to students in rural areas or in low-income countries that otherwise would not have this kind of access. So my main point is an offer. All of you, all of these speakers here are part of groups that have substantive programs that they want and knowledge that they want to propagate. I'd love to partner in any ways that would be useful. This would be a great offering to the 2,000 members of the network to say, here is a way you could have the cutting edge curriculum in such and such area. So those are my opening remarks, and I'm all ears for the panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff, and thank you for highlighting the value added that the SDSN can bring to the networks of engineers and the youth organization that is here represented. So, moving on, I want to make this like a conversation and hopefully also opening at the end to hear what's in your minds here in the audience. So, how do you see the deployment of new technologies playing into the skills conversation? So do we have here, will the workforce skills pose a major barrier to the energy transition?
So who do you want to go first?
Well, please, you.
So I'll take a particular view, and that view is if the market demands certain skills, the university will produce, the students will sign up, and it will move forward. So today, when we think about energy transition, it's much broader, of course, than energy. You have the whole, how do you generate the energy, but also how do you consume the energy, how do you reduce consumption. But then it's also how do you move people, how do you move goods, and this is an energy problem as well. Water is also an energy problem because you are moving water. We don't have any new water different than what our ancestors used. But the cycles are an energy problem also. Buildings is another energy problem. So the ability to put in the right standards, the ability to bring in the right regulations would mean that a market is created. So as soon as emission norms are applied to automotive, there is a market need for people who understand how to get to those norms. So the skills required are at a component level, but really more than that at a system level. So those system level skills hence are built. So my point is, I think when the market is there, the skills will happen through the education system into the market, and it will be reinforced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, do you think that there is this linear aspect in the market creation and the skills coming in, or do they come together? Let's see what Saifur thinks about that.
Thank you very much. It is not linear. Number two, you have to remember, skills come with education. Example, electric vehicles. You can have technicians hook up the power supply in your garage. Second is power engineers make sure your area has enough power to charge 100 Teslas. And then third, the designers, engineers again, who will make sure your car goes longest possible distance based on the charge in the car. It's very different, it's not linear. Question, what are they trying to address today? I work with a group in IRENA called Energy Transition ETEN, Transition Education Network. We work with them, we have content in IEEE to help school teachers teach energy transition. Why is it important? Go to a small town in South Africa. I had all the data there, but that's a different story. That town has only a coal mine. How do you expect the coal miner's daughter to learn about solar energy? No idea. No idea. So this is the starting point. So you can do all the studies and 40%, 90% to me doesn't make any difference. Go to the real world. How would you make sure the coal miner's daughter knows about solar energy? That's the challenge. We have content in tryengineering.org, free for school teachers all over the world. We gave them, the school teachers, that content through IRENA to make it available to them. We are also working on making those available in other languages. I gave a talk in Pune, India about a year ago. I said, I give you a challenge to make it in Marathi language. They did it. And the school teachers in the villages of Maharashtra has the IEEE content in their own language. So make sure you have to go to the problem. Survey is fine. To me, survey doesn't make any difference. We do what we call market survey. You know, the good ideas don't need market survey. Apple never did iPod market survey. They never did it. They put it in the market and we liked it.
Yeah.
So
No,
can
but,
I
sorry,
add
please,
something?
go ahead.
Yeah, see, the emphasis on education is important. At the same time, I think we forget that the application, the hands-on skills are also important. So I think that we need to recognize that skills come from the theory, but also from going to the field and applying. And I think we sometimes focus so much on the theory that we forget that the skills really are built by going into the field, using your hands. The coal miner's daughter would be benefited if there are glamorous jobs in the solar field, because everybody wants her to be a solar engineer, right? So I again want to emphasize that let's look at it holistically and bring in all the aspects that are required. It is not linear, it is non-linear, exponential, in fact, because when the market needs it, it will be an exponential demand.
Yes, exactly. So, and this diversity of skills that we are talking about, we saw from the survey also that in addition to these hard skills, we need the soft skills. We heard that in the US, they are missing more the leadership, the management. In other places, they are missing perhaps other insights, the systems approach. So these skills are very different. So what would be, I would like to first give the word here to our youth representative, Mohamedou, to say a few words about that and also to reflect on the results that we heard from the reports. That really, do you see that reflected from your experience, from your generation, what these reports are saying?
Hello, okay. Well, I think I'm someone that is a live witness about the skills, and also coming from, I come from a village, and also I'm coming from a street kid to be here today. So I had an experience, or I had a chance to be in different countries, from Asia to Europe and Africa. I studied in some countries. And from my experience, I realized the education system, there is a big gap. So in those continents, you have every country which is been, they have different education system, and you can feel it. Mm-hmm. Yes. So I think, as he was also highlighting, is that the problem is very complex and the gaps are high, because also if you look at the global perspective and coming from a global south, you realize there is, again, in terms of data accuracy, how are these data are being collected in terms of the global view perspective in order to come out with a decision and say, that's the fact. And again, if you are doing survey, for instance, what is, talking always the perspective of the global south and from my perspective, and how this, the view that these people are giving is that much, what is the level of consciousness about that issue. So I think this perspective, we should improve, maybe to go more deeper into the data and in order to come out with a very wiser decision. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you for your insights, because I was thinking of Shatki said that in India, the students feel they have the skills, wasn't it? A large number, actually larger than in the US. They have this, they feel they are well prepared with skills, but the market is not there necessarily structured to absorb them. So this shows that there is not, it's not really only a south-north, yes, please.
I would like to comment on that and also comment on the discussion around the survey itself, right? So, so I'm from India, and we have 1.5 million engineering graduates every year. Now, they might feel that they're sufficiently skilled, but as an industry, we do not think so. Mm-hmm. So you might get a response that the youth feel that they're sufficiently skilled, but the industry might not think so, or the academic world might not think so. So when we look at the survey, we are looking at perceptions of the people who are responding. And so we need to think about it like that. I like the way, Shakti, you put it, that they think this way, right? And that's what they think, and that is, perceptions are also reality. But that doesn't translate to whether they have taken an auditable exam which puts them at a certain skill level on par with their global peers. The differences also between global areas come from the fact that the exposures are different. So an exposure in a particular country might be significant and they might feel inadequate because of that, but they might actually be better skilled than somebody else in another country where the exposure is lower. So we need to, hence I agree with Saifur that we need to take the survey in a way that it's usable by thoroughly understanding where the input is coming from. But the surveys are important, I think, because it's a starting point to understand how people are thinking.
Yes, absolutely. And that brings me, this discussion is bringing me to the question of then what role do universities versus the industry, what role they play? Because as you said, you have a perception maybe from the youngsters that the situation is in a certain way. You have a different perspective from the industry. That's a gap in itself. And overcoming that, we also heard that something that, well, it's changing very much. That brings me from the university thinking of the long life learning. You don't learn for once, but you're learning all the time. So what role does university and industry play in this? What kind, are we seeing a good dialogue and a good complementation of this skill building in this institution?
Let me start. What we are missing here is entrepreneurship. We talked about skills for finding a job, but that's not the end of the life. Other things can be done, not find a job always after you graduate, whatever it is. So IEEE has a committee on entrepreneurship. That's what you do. Teach young people how to IP protection, how to promote your business. Do that. One clear example in Africa, we have in IEEE called a Smart Village program, Smart Village, ISV. We gave some seed funding to individuals in Uganda and Nigeria last year to buy a solar panel and a battery and a charge controller. And usefulness is providing light, charging mobile phones in the villages. Why we did that? To show them it is not just paper, it is an example that you can do this. What they did after that was done, they went out and recruited other investors to replicate that in other villages. That's skill set for entrepreneurship, not finding a job somewhere. Mm-hmm. Very useful. Second is, we also be socially responsible. So another thing we did in Uganda, issue was how to keep the vaccine safe, COVID vaccine safe. You need low temperature. Mm-hmm. So they built a clinic with solar panel and battery to keep the vaccine safe. That is an example of how you excite people, they'll do that. So my point as an educator, excite people. Let them do more than they think they can do. That's how we want to push for entrepreneurship.
So can I?
Please, go ahead.
So I think it's an important question.
Let our young friend say something. Please go ahead. Not dominate the discussion.
No, he will come. Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
He's from Africa. I want to hear from him.
No, yeah, okay.
Please.
Okay, thank you. I think in terms of the role of the universities and the role of the industries, my opinion is that, first of all, if we are in the perspective of the transition and the speed of the need that we need to go faster, right? So if you look at the universities, maybe curriculum or the approach, you can see most of the time I feel like it's more theoretical, it's more superficial. Then when you come out from the university, you still having maybe doubt in yourself if you are able to maybe satisfy the market or not. And another challenges that you might face is that, okay, you're coming out, where is the market? So there is no market for you. You need an internship or maybe you need a job. The requirements, you are not eligible for the requirements. So I think there should be somehow to change the methodology approach into where you can maybe more non-formal skills, where you can develop programs like maybe exchange program where people can have access to that skills that is really required into the market, but also how the industries, the industrial policy go in line with the government policy and to meet the market.
But I was interested in hearing also if you have been in different parts of the world, as you said. Do you think this is a generalized situation? in terms of that gap of not finding the positioning, because I was a professor many years in Sweden, and we kind of, all my students got a job, you know? So is the problem the structuring of the market at national levels? Is that they're somehow managed to bridge that gap towards industrial positions? So from the different places you have been, how do you think that the differences? It would be interesting to see your perception.
Well, let me speak into the perspective of the recent programs I have done. I've done my master's degree in renewable energy system analysis for green hydrogen, and I've been in Germany for my research. And it's a West African program for green hydrogen. And then if you look at, when you're talking about green hydrogen, you know, it's something that, okay, we are hoping to have it maybe in the near future. But I work on the African market. But if you look at I found out that there is more than 90% of the projects ongoing in Africa is for export, because in quote, people believe there is no market for green hydrogen in Africa. Okay, I might not have enough knowledge to prove that, but from my perspective, there is market. But how do you make the market? That's the question. So most of us, we still, I myself is still looking for a job. So of course, I have my own initiative because I really focus on rural development and rural empowerment, and find out how we can find local solution for locally, because I believe there is resources that we need to take advantages of in order to build the prosperity, not the development maybe some might see. So it's really it needs the markets, but for green hydrogen, I might say, in my perspective, you need to do more, you know, to create the market. So in order to people to get the job. So the job opportunity is not there. In one perspective, we can have our own initiative. In another perspective, we as a people, we don't have the same. So you need to have policy that give incentive in order to give these people access to the job.
Yeah, so in other ways, no highway between education and industry yet. But we need that highway for the energy transition. Gopi, you had something in mind?
Yeah, I totally agree with the statements made. I'll start off talking about hydrogen. The fact is that there is no free hydrogen anywhere. So if you want green hydrogen, you have to separate it from water using renewable energy, right? So it hence becomes a carrier. It is nothing different than a carrier, just like electricity is. But there are advantages. And for it to be successful in Africa, you have to compete that with all other forms of energy which are viable in Africa for the GDP that they have, for the income levels that they have. So the market, like Mohamedou very well put, needs to be there for those jobs to be real in Africa. Right, but coming back to your earlier question on what needs to happen, there needs to be an intellectual humbleness, both in the industry as well as in the universities. I've been in conversations where universities have said, well, we are the knowledge givers, so the industry should come to us. And I've been in conversations where industry has said, well, we are funding the work, so we have a right to the intellectual property being generated. And these conversations are not yet mature enough to a place where the collaborations are meaningful, but they need to be. So today, if I need to use graphene as a material to reduce the amount of steel which I need for a particular function, it better be a tight collaboration between the university and industry. Or if I need to get solar panels continuously improving to thin film solars, which can be efficient even on the wall of a building, that needs academic research which gets transitioned very quickly into the industrial space. So these are things I think we cannot sit in our silos and on our thrones and expect it will happen. We have to get down to the ground.
Exactly. I want to delve a little bit more on this topic.
But
I think
your
Sanhu
issue
has
of
something in
highway,
mind.
let me address your highway issue. highway is useful if you have a place to go to.
Yes, exactly.
If no place
If
to go
you-
to, highway doesn't make any sense to you. So point is, in this business, we've defined clearly where they will find jobs. That's number one. I gave a talk in EU Energy Week in July. Issue is Europe wants to triple the solar capacity in next 8 years, triple. And electrification, meaning you replace your home heating done with oil and gas with heat pumps. That'll reduce local petroleum and gas consumption, which is fine. But point is, how do you find these technicians to put in that many heat pumps, millions of them? Solution is make them easier to install. That's engineering, plug and play. Germany said in 2022, they installed 1 million additional heat pumps, 1 million, without any extra manpower. Interesting data. Because these are plug and play. One guy does 4 a day, if he's due 1 a day. That's engineering. So you put everybody to the table that define the problem and find solutions. So engineers are smart people, many of the engineers here. And we can solve the problem, but we have to have a path. That's your highway business. And proper policy support. And universities can play that role, as you said, but they have to think differently. Not just provide theoretical work and go. Things are changing now. In the US, I know, even in Bangladesh, things are changing. Bangladesh school curriculum, 7th grade has a group on climate change. 7th grade curriculum in climate change. That's probably why the Indian numbers are so high. So things are happening. We bring it to everybody's attention, and so it can be widely disseminated.
So that brings me to this question that I was going to ask about the curriculum. Gopi also said we need some humbleness in here, that we have different roles to play. You suggested that entrepreneurship as an important, because if students don't find a direct position, don't find the highway, because it will be a curved road in the energy transition. But there is also these multiple skills, these multiple roads that we can take. So how is academic curriculum, for example, or that interplay between universities and the industry, reflecting, are there changes there? You adhered to some changes, but are these changes happening in a wide way, I mean, in a broad way, so that we really have I personally know of universities that are very much in the front of innovating the way that they work with industry, and not only industry, but also cities, for example. You have to work with the government to be able to transform the cities, the energy use in cities, etc. So it's not only a curriculum change, but it's also a curriculum change. So from your perspective, then from the industrial side, do you feel that there is this humbleness or this willingness to make that revision?
I'll come back to Jeffrey Sachs' comments about 2,000 universities in this team. I'm a professor. If someone tells me to change the curriculum, I say I don't have time to do this, literally. But somebody gives me a module, I'll use it. So this is what my module solution. That's IEEE Tri-Engineering, modules, to help professors to do their job without spending 3 weeks creating a module themselves. UN can help in that context. Collect modules from all over the world and put those modules in many languages, people to pick and choose. You'll see a lot of people takers will be there. And then in that context, like Gopi said, involve industry engineers. They are the end user of this knowledge. So once the end user are at the table, and provider, teachers at the table, and the administration would like to be recognized as innovative. So you go to any university now, research and innovation are coming together. VP research and education, not research anymore, and innovation. So this is an example of innovative way of doing things.
Mahmoud, you alluded to the aspect of the university education sometimes being very theoretical. Do you think this is still a very general problem of this, and that creates this feeling that maybe not having the right preparedness?
Well, I think for the bachelor, maybe degree, it might be it might be more theoretical. Yeah, we maybe need more, but also it depends on the specific field you are in, and also the university where you are, and the country where you are. I think this is maybe, let me speak into my country perspective. I think we have a big challenges, especially the curriculum and also the language barrier. So which is sometimes also play a role. So I think we need really to maybe work on the curriculum that oriented with also the context of the country, because most of the time these curriculums are designed based on the maybe it does not match with the country reality or country perspective. Of course, I understand it's a process, it's a long-term process. We need to work more on that, and especially in the research, which is mostly, I can say, it's really low, the research. You know, we don't go much into research. We go more into just maybe more superficial knowledge to get the degree, and then go somewhere to find a job.
So, but is the role of the education in academia to prepare you for, to give you a broad base and prepare you for life, to prepare you to get a job, or even more than that?
Yeah, if I can.
Please.
So I think even based on the earlier question, I think internships, co-op programs, which are highlighted by the survey as well, and research programs, which are a collaboration between not only industry and academia, but also the government. I think these are not where they need to be. You need to increase these opportunities quite a bit. And there are ways to do it. You can use something like a 70-20-10 rule. For example, in the industry, 10% of what they do will have a 7-year horizon. 20% of what they do will get into the market in 3 to 5 years. But 70% of what they do is now, here and now. But in the university, it will flip. Right? 70% of what the university does should be 7 years plus. And the interaction between university and industry will come where there is an overlap in that 3 to 5 year zone. And these numbers are not magic. You can use different numbers as well. But are we where we need to be in order to prepare students for entering the workforce directly? Maybe not. But is it the role of the university solely? That's also not true. The students need to seek out themselves opportunities and opportunities to learn. It's not entirely saying that, okay, the entire responsibility is with the university or entire responsibility is with parents even. So I think it's a shared responsibility to get there.
Yeah, well, on this shared responsibility, then we've heard here from you, Mahmoud, for example, this. Maybe you have the formation, you don't find the market well structured to absorb, or your ideas, Saifur, that maybe you can break this down into simplified modules that will kind of serve as starters, perhaps for focusing on entrepreneurship, opening for kind of this more random sometimes process of innovation and people searching in the different contexts, or as you're saying, where we still need the quality education to persist over time, and then we need to kind of balance that with the immediate needs of the market. So let's move here into a discussion on how we can close these gaps. Is it what are, so you already gave some ideas, but let's explore a little bit more about these ideas, and then I will like to open also for the audience, because I think this is a nice opportunity to do some brainstorming. We have many engineers here in the room, and perhaps others also with other qualifications, and it would be very nice to get there. But I'd like to start with you about that. So how are we going to close these gaps, which is not one gap in terms of, it's not one technology, it's not only the technicians and the high-level engineers, strategists, or it's not only about getting a job or learning for, or preparing the basis for a lifelong learning. So it's many different things. But let's try to then pinpoint some key ideas. I'm very interested in that discussion, so I'll be taking notes of this brainstorm. Thank you. Please.
Well, starting with where you are here, the UN Council of Engineers for Energy Transition, Council. That's the starting point, platform. I like platforms where people can come in and share their expertise, knowledge, and wishful thinking. Everything is good. So I would suggest that you look, this council can be the platform, start discussion. I can talk about IEEE's resources. We have, IEEE has members in 190 countries, like the UN almost. And total of 500,000 engineers, scientists, members. And they are people on the ground. They are graduate engineers, computer scientists. So use that available resources. They can be volunteering to go to schools and talk about what they do and how they do things. You talk about STEM education. Unless you role model for young kids, boys and girls, they would not go to STEM field. I've told my female colleagues, go to niece's school, grade 5, grade 6, and tell them who you are, what you do, and how you got there. Then the young girl, 12 years old, have a role model. So unless the real role model is very important to people moving forward, especially young girls in developing countries. That's a missing point. My summary is here, Smeid, is use your council as a platform. Seek help from IEEE. We have people on the ground, and we have content. Our tri-engineering module has a lot of content. And then put together. And then people like Mahmoud here, he is from the user group. How he can tell us, well, this is not going to work in Guinea-Bissau. What will work? We'll make adjustments.
Yes, thank you. Gopi? Maybe Mahmoud?
Okay, for me, I think in today's world, maybe the best way we can fill that gap is through collaboration and networking. Because if I'm here and having this opportunity, going back home, I go home with new way of thinking. Someone else can have something that to give here and to exchange. So I think these programs that also universities are developing throughout around the world, it might help because people can move to one place to another place to learn something and come home and to transfer the knowledge they get. But also at the national level, we need to really have good leadership as well, because and visionary, which is can say understand the local problem and rely on what is there, what is not there. Try to create cooperation and collaboration outside of the country in order to make it happen. So, thank you.
Yeah, and I think it is important, your point on the youth is actually asking to be part of this discussion. So it's not a discussion between university and industry and policymakers, but the youth wants to be part of it. So that's an interesting thing that there is this growing organization of youth to have a say at this table. Gopi?
Yeah, I think all that's been discussed is important. Also important is money. So I think if you can take one action and say that out of COP28, and let's say out of this discussion, we say that can we have a VC fund which will be provided for transition-related profitable opportunities, which also encourages collaboration between countries, which will drive hence the right skills to be demanded from the university and from the individual. So that's my additional point. I think we forget that we need money for all of this.
Oh, I like that mention because this is very much on finance, this COP. And I think capacity building cannot be treated separately. We have all these funds, all these projects, and capacity building perhaps should be a module, should be one component of the different projects that we actually can scale up. And so if we don't spell it out, it will not be, because of course there is always capacity building as we develop projects, but that it can be something scalable, that it can be replicated, and that we can show others how to do it, and also create structures for that. I see Saifur wanted to
yeah,
address
and add
that.
to what you had said, capacity building. I work in the electric power industry, very, very old industry, 130, 40 years old. We have skill shortage now, today. Retiring, not many young people are coming in to the job. They all go to computer science and software engineering. Yeah. Fine. What we did, we went to industry, that you need the manpower 10 years from now. What can I help? They put money, scholarship money, in IEEE. We gave thousands of scholarships so far. Condition is, give you money, good money, it's $8,000, $10,000 a year, not bad in the US. And you will make a promise, not guarantee, you'll find a job in the power industry after graduation. Mm-hmm. And 90% have done that. We have now moved to India with the same, Bangalore in fact, same idea. So this is an example of how industry looks at their own future to get skilled manpower for their business and willing to invest the money issue so that universities have scholarship program to attract students to study these topics.
Yeah. Manpower and women power, right?
Yeah. Manpower is a common name.
Okay. Okay, so I'd like to open for the participants here. Do we have a microphone here? Please.
Many hands
yes.
have gone up. That's
So we
encouraging.
start with the, okay, you please, and then the lady there, and then you. Okay, please.
Hi, my name is Vigya Sharma. I am a seat member and an academic at a university in Queensland, Australia. I completely agree with your comment about how long it takes to convince a senior professor to introduce a module, or the head of school, or the dean, or the VC. It took me nearly 18 months to get funding and convince the executive dean of my engineering faculty that we wanted to design a course on humanitarian engineering. Okay. We finally delivered it, so we designed it, and it's an elective course. We get about 40 students every year from across all disciplines. Nearly 70% of the third year and final year students have never heard of SDGs, have never heard of ethics from the Engineers Australia, the Code of Ethics, and it's shocking. I can count on the fingers of one hand, basically, how many courses across the engineering faculty in my university even talk about SDGs and the students graduate. I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's a very important role for educators as well. We heard from the survey what the students want, what the industry wants, but I think there is a role that educators, whether it's in schools or higher, tertiary education, we need to be a bit more, I guess, open about shifting the way we teach. So not many courses, in my opinion and in my research, because I had to write a business case for this course for the executive dean, even talk about human-centered design. We do it because we bring in Engineers Without Borders and all of those other organizations. So I wonder if you had any view on how IEEE or IET could bring some shift in how the universities teach, not just how the industry can help university, because sometimes the industry really wants transactional research. We want research on mine tailings, we'll give you X million dollars, can you tell us how to manage it better? So I guess there's a question about what UN or SEED or other large organizations can do to advance, to bring about that shift within education systems so that we have the skills and we are able to build capacity for the longer term? Thanks.
Things are changing, and in the US quite a bit. Some university like Colorado, Department on Green Engineering, department, not double E, is changing. So, but this knowledge has to be widely disseminated. That's where this council can play a role. Send a flyer to all deans of engineering colleges all over the world. This content available for you. As you said, it takes time to build new curriculum, and they don't get paid to do that. So if you give them ready-made modules to do that, I think that'll make a difference. And I'll pick, I know Queensland very well, I have some colleagues who work there, big solar project in Queensland. So places who are doing something already, target those. Then awareness already in place, and then build on that. But we can help disseminating that information to our members all over the world. Happy to do that.
So I can add to that. I'm sure many of you, same as us, we sit on the board of studies of universities. Many of our members at IET sit on board of studies. I sit on board of studies. And I influence, for example, artificial intelligence and how it is incorporated into the curriculum. Right? And similarly, those who have more knowledge than I do on SDGs should sit on board of studies, bring that, and they do. And they do. I think that's one way organization like IET contributes through its members. We also have subcommittees on these topics and produce position papers which are disseminated.
Okay, Mahmoud, I wanted to ask you, how exposed were you to the things that were mentioned here, ethics, SDGs, etc., and the role of engineers in that process?
In your college, undergraduate, did you hear these things?
Well, I was in another, because I'm coming from thermal power engineering to renewable. So, but before that, to be honest, I was not into that. I started being into this from my master degree 2021, yeah, when I started my master degree, and also getting more opportunity to understand what's going on. And I have founded 2 organizations in West Africa where we empower youth, but also we try to develop projects, especially in the capacity building. I just want to share this. There was a school in Niger, maybe some of you know Niger. The training schools, they get funding from an organization where they have a box of solar energy laboratory, where they were supposed to start teaching solar energy, to include it for 6 months training, technical training, short term. But there was no any idea how to operate that one. But then with our initiative, we just developed the project. We say, okay, we are going to go to sensitize and raise awareness. And when we get to university, this technical school, they were so happy because they never met someone that will do this kind of activity. We went there to raise awareness, but then they show us the box. And one of our colleagues, he did bachelor in applied solar energy, and he had experience, and he operated. And then we went there to train them how to operate it. Now they collaborate with one of our colleagues, which is from that country, because our program is 15 countries, to collaborate with them and to start teaching these courses. They had all the materials, but there was no skills. So this is one of the examples. And another example, which is very important as well, we went to a village to train people. They are actually installing PV, but they don't have even they don't know even how to maybe do the sizing, etc. And we went there to train them, and it was really inspiring. So I think there is kind of things is really needed.
Okay, great. Thank you for these concrete examples. So I have, please.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm Beata Tripathi. I represent a European-based NGO that's very interested in engineering and electrification. And I would like to draw on what Mohamedou said that I thought was very interesting, which was the lack sometimes of adequacy between the curriculums and the reality and the perspectives locally. And I have two, I think, major examples. I don't know what you refer to when you said renewables, but two major examples of low carbon energy sources, which are hydroelectricity and nuclear. That so in West Africa, huge hydro potential. In the European Union, huge nuclear fleet and potential. Lots of expectations on those two sources of energies that will be the base load of the energy systems of the future, but very little publicity in the universities for the students to go to those curriculums, for those curriculums to expand, etc., etc. So we have in West Africa lots of hydro installations that lack people and expertise, and in the European Union, programs on nuclear energy, but that lack completely the people and the students to join. So how do we reconcile this? Because I think that's one of the major topic that you have been addressing all throughout the panel, and thank you very much again for all of that.
Thank you. So, want to address that on the mismatch?
Maybe given the time shortage, they had the questions in, we address them at the same time.
No, I don't have anybody in the line, I think. Do I?
Right here.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Many
Oh,
people
there.
waiting.
Okay. All right. So let's take this gentleman here.
Mike in the back. Okay.
Oh, okay. It's in the back. All right.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much. My name is Yana Aranda. I'm here on behalf of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, ASME, a sister society to IEEE. And for me, it's interesting if I can return to the previous question just to add another intervention point. From the perspective of how do we advance education, particularly engineering education, I couldn't agree more with my colleague from Australia about the challenges that that faculty face in trying to challenge the norm. And I don't think the onus should be entirely on faculty as individuals. It's an impossible task, a difficult place to be in. This is where I think there has to be 3 degrees of kind of direction here. First, we have to challenge the systems itself. Right? When we're talking about accreditation of engineering education and how that needs to evolve, this is where engineering associations, who often sit on accreditation bodies such as ABET in the United States, have a tremendous responsibility and opportunity to challenge how we are in fact implementing new dimensions of engineering education that have been introduced by IEEE and other bodies that indicate that sustainable development must be part of the curriculum, as well as ethics and other types of dimensions. So we have an opportunity to come together and do that as a collective. Number 2, because we know how long it takes to evolve engineering curriculum, it's not a trivial task, and it takes many, many years. We have to go to where the workforce is. And where the emerging workforce is online. And they are accessible there. And we have to do that also with the workforce that's enabling curriculum. So from our perspective, ASME had invested, along with IEEE, over a decade ago in a platform called Engineering for Change, which is accessible for every discipline, free for students, for early career engineers, for faculty members, which is a dissemination platform for new types of approach, new types of techniques in teaching, as well as opportunities for early career engineers and architects and scientists to be able to gain the skills they need while they are in school as master students, while they are working alongside their jobs for a brief sprint of 5 to 6 months where they can get introduced to new skills and get some project-based learning, which is so critical for them to be able to enter into these fields and immediately be relevant and be hireable and be targets for employers. So these are just some ideas, but I think the last dimension that I want to highlight, which is what you've spoken about as well, and I think the early career engineer on stage has, collaboration. Engineering associations and others are so much more powerful when we work together, when we are a united front on these issues and coordinate our efforts so we're not just all going in different directions. So from my perspective, on behalf of ASME, I'm here at COP to do exactly that, to move forward on being more united in our approach. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your inputs. Let me see who is in the line here. So since the microphone is there, we take here and then we come to this area.
Hi, I'm Surya Sathajoda. I'm from the University of Cambridge, working as a researcher in AI for carbon capture and storage. So my question is about the entrepreneurial spirit and how do we bring that to a wider, a wider population, because I feel, especially in the UK, and I'm sure it's the case with other countries as well, outside a few concentrated hubs of universities and cities, the spirit of entrepreneurship isn't as present, and I feel like the barrier of entry for entrepreneurship is a lot higher unless you're around people who are already in the ecosystem. So I was wondering what kind of, ideas you have on how we could bring entrepreneurship, which is obviously very important for the climate struggle right now, and bring new ideas. How can we bring that to a wider population? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move here to this and hear the comments, insights, these three gentlemen, and then we go back to the panel.
Well, thank you much. First of all, I was very impressed by the quality of the discussion from the panel and the observations they've made. I wanted to come back to a couple of points that were made earlier on, and that is really how do you influence curriculum within universities, how you can make it relevant. And in that respect, what the lady said, the bag is very important, that organizations such as ABET and within the IET, its own accreditation body, can have a major influence on what is taught in engineering programs. So rather than doing it from bottom up, you can use these vehicles to try to influence engineering education, whether it's in Britain or US or elsewhere. The other point I was going to make was a lot of mention has been made of the SDGs. UNESCO brought out last year, year before last, a very influential report on engineering for SDGs. And I would strongly recommend reading that particular report because huge amount of information and relevance both to practicing engineers and to educators as to how to embed the SDGs within their teaching and training programs.
Thank you very much. Please.
Good afternoon. My name is Hamza Buqai. I'm coming from Jordan, from Al Hussein Technical University. I'm the director of the German Energy Academy in Jordan. And I think this session is one of the most relevant sessions I have attended in the last week, as it's at the core of our business.
Thank you. Thank you.
When I came to, as director in the academy, I came actually from the industry. And the vision of our president of the university was exactly he wanted people who practiced, who worked with the labor, who worked with the engineers, to come and change the type of curricula that we develop. I studied also in Jordan, in Jordan University, which was the oldest university in Jordan, and I studied computer engineering, not energy, not power. I literally learned how to program on the board, how to do it on paper, not practical. And this was one of the weaknesses that I saw in academia. I then self-learned myself into renewable energy, into solar, until I reached to work in the solar industry. And this one thing that we also want to have a mindset in our university to change in the students, that they're not in the university to be taught, to be fed. Actually, they have to learn how to acquire skills, how to communicate, how to be innovative in their thinking. That's the type of engineers that we look now into the industry, because the industry is moving very fast. And when we started actually with the PV installation course, and everyone was saying, but you have high level of unemployed people in solar. Why you need to teach them that? For us was the idea, you have to start with a benchmark that show the difference, but now we expanded into EV charging, into green hydrogen, into green building in our courses, where we can show the people that we did the impact in the renewable or in the solar, the thing that is already developed well in Jordan, and we can do similar impact in new topics where engineers, or let's say our graduates, are not looking. And the main thing in HG, what we're doing, or in the academy, that we're also emphasized on project-based learning. So every course has at least 3 credit hour practical training, and it's usually taught by industrial expert or in a company. So partnership, which also Muhammad and our colleague mentioned, is the key of the future study and education, because the industry should come and tell us, these are the skills I need, this is the knowledge that is required for renewable energy or in climate change, in decarbonization, so that we have the students ready for the future. We don't need to think of what was needed 5 years ago, what is the current curricula. We need to think of 5 years from now, what skills those people would need.
Great insights. Thank you for your for pointing out the importance of the critical thinking among the young engineers. And yes, please.
Thank you. I'm closing here the triangle of
Yes.
questions. Bas Breimer from the Luxembourg Development Corporation. We do a lot of capacity strengthening in the Global South, also integrating a lot of green skills into TVET. My question, that you touched upon the financing of all this to make it sustainable from a financial point of view, especially in a context where the industry is not yet mature enough to contribute to a skills development fund. Does the panel have any recommendation on financing the integration of green skills into education systems? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Also for closing with a question on finance here. So I will bring back the word to the panelists to make comments on these insights and address these questions that came up.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, what can I say without taking 10 minutes to address these questions? What I'm seeing here, the issue of hydropower, nuclear power, issue of mechanical engineering working with IEEE, issue of in Queensland curriculum. So what is important, it is not that we have a knowledge gap, but knowledge dissemination gap. The nuclear power and hydro is known for a long time, but people there don't know that. So how do you make it available to them? That your Council of Engineers is a good place to start. Jeffrey Sachs talked about the UN activities, 2000 college presidents are interested. So let's put that together, IEEE, ASME, IET, your council, UN Sustainable Network, so that we have a platform to discuss these ideas. And then do some workshops or take some focus groups. This group will talk about how to get the knowledge about power supply in nuclear, solar, hydro, whatever, available to anybody who needs it, as an example. And then build on that. And then, of course, final thing is standards. If you don't have standards, people ask, well, how do I know it works? So this is very important, put standards around it. Otherwise, we can talk, but people will not take it to do this. That is my summary, quickly.
Okay, thank you. Mahmoud?
Bom, I speak in Portuguese. What I would like to say is that, again, emphasize the fact that I think the nature and the resources itself, the way they are unbalanced in the world, it really tells us how we need to come together. It's a joint effort. So as he was saying, we need to develop programs that really can address to that and fill the gap. Because the information in some parts of the world might have have challenges to get the informations, and what you were saying as well, I think, again, this program, exchange program, I myself, most of the time, I even, within West Africa, one of my recommendations always I have been giving, especially to universities, is that we within our region, we don't collaborate. We need to collaborate, maybe create programs, that exchange program where one country or maybe one university can go to another university for a few months, maybe 1 month, 2 months, to in order to exchange and also learn from the cultural perspective, because sometimes the information that you are having and when you are in the reality is totally different. So we need to also develop this kind of collaboration, but also entrepreneurship. It's really, I think it might help, especially for us sub-Saharan African countries, through entrepreneurship, especially youth innovations, and that are really have this motivation, are working, especially in the rural areas, but most of the time what they are doing are not, the information is not disseminated and they don't get these opportunities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and Gopi, to close.
Yeah. So I think a few specific answers, if you don't mind. On the hydro and nuclear, I think it's important to know the resources of the region. I'm sure you have looked at it, be it a uranium fuel. In India, we do not. have that resource, so we try to do things with thorium. As an example, hydro, we are actually reducing the amount of hydro in favor for solar, so there is a reason for doing that. But from a skill set standpoint, which is your question, in general, the nuclear area is depleting in skill sets because those people who understand the nuclear power plants are retiring and retired, right? So I think it's an important area to continue to build the skill sets. Hydro, the nature of the equipment and the nature of how it works, it is something which even we can look at technicians doing it. So you don't need a 4-year degree for every kind of problem to solve. You can, focus on diploma holders and people who can do something like a hydro. Thanks for that question. Entrepreneurship, there was a question, how do you promote entrepreneurship? I am a startup myself right now after being in large companies. I'm also part of the startup ecosystem in India, being part of the Confederation of Indian Industries Startup Council. I chair the Startup Council. So it is a multi-pronged problem. The good thing is the youth of many countries are entrepreneurs. They are willing to take the risks. And now, even those coming out of the top universities are becoming entrepreneurs. I taught at IIT Hyderabad entrepreneurship, and I funded my students who wanted to be entrepreneurs. That's not the way to scale, but that's a way to start, right? I think the good thing is we do have the youth who wanted to do that. I'll stop at that because there are other questions, I'm sure. If you want me to take something, because
our time is up.
Well, they will close our session quite soon. So I'd like to just kind of, has been a very rich discussion. I'd like to just comment on a few key points that are more general, because I think this discussion still needs to continue. On the importance of addressing education as a collective and to join forces to actually achieve the transformations that we want to see in place and cover the knowledge dissemination gap using our platforms. We have many platforms. I think we can ask what added value each of our platforms can bring to that discussion and go deeper into defining our roles and also how we can contribute in forwarding this agenda. So for the students, I think to give depth and also breadth in terms of the contextualization of the challenges that we have in the energy and climate issue, and also work on the issues of inclusion that we have not had so much time to discuss here, but I think it is very important. I just came from a discussion on that and how we actually can also bridge the divide that exists in knowledge between South and North. We keep hearing about how the increase in emissions will be in the countries of the South, and then we need to really strengthen the capacity of the South for that purpose. So I just wanted to finish also with a comment on a positive note, as it was mentioned before that we don't have as many women in engineering, but in Cornell last year we have more female graduates from STEM than male graduates. So we are doing some work to achieve that. So thank you very much. Reminding this has been a session organized by the Council of Engineers for the Energy Transition, which is chaired by UNIDO and SDSN, the Student Energy, IEEE, and IET. Thank you very much for participating. Thank you, the panelists.